I'll share the facts. I want you to share your opinion. Today we're talking about Mount Rushmore. Oops, not that photo. Let's try another one. For those of you that don't know, I'm a monuments historian and I recently had the opportunity to travel to Mount Rushmore. Here are the facts. Mount Rushmore is located in the Black Hills of South Dakota. The Black Hills have historically been a sacred land for the Plains Indians, including the Arapaho, the Lakota, generally the Sioux tribes. In 1868, the U.S. promised to include this land of the Black Hills in the reservation for the Sioux Indians via a treaty. In the 1870s, the U.S. violated their own treaty because gold was found in the Black Hills, and they began to mine for it. A century later, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that the U.S. owed financial compensation to the Sioux Indians because of this treaty violation. Today, that financial compensation would equate to over $1 billion. The Sioux Indians continue to reject this compensation and instead demand that the land be returned. In the 1920s, after the U.S. had taken back control of the Black Hills, they began to conceptualize Mount Rushmore. Specifically, Duane Robinson, the state historian of South Dakota, wanted to create a monument that boosted tourism to the state. He originally envisioned that Mount Rushmore would include sculptures of heroes of the American West, like Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea, as well as other Native Americans, like Crazy Horse. When Gutzon Borglum was hired to be the sculptor of the monument, he is the one that decided to change it to be 4 presidents: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt. Robinson found Borglum to become the sculptor because Borglum was currently working on the Shrine to the Confederacy, a monument carved into Stone Mountain in Atlanta, Georgia, that features Confederate figures such as Jefferson Davis and Stonewall Jackson. Borglum left this project to begin his work on Mount Rushmore, which started in 1927 and continued after his death in the 1940s. When Mount Rushmore was first being created, there were not objections from the indigenous community. However, these objections later did catch on during the Native American Civil Rights Movement, and part of the response to that was to create the Crazy Horse Memorial, both in response to it not being included in Mount Rushmore, as well as to have something bigger that enshrined Native Americans in the land. Today, there are indigenous people that are against both monuments because these are still carved into the Black Hills, which remains a sacred place for the Plains Indians. Mount Rushmore received funding from Congress. It was made possible by the different presidents of the time, specifically Calvin Coolidge, who helped break ground on the area. It was required that Mount Rushmore featured not just Republicans, but at least one Democrat, which is why Thomas Jefferson represents the Democratic Party in the mountain. Today, Mount Rushmore does remain the most popularly visited tourist site in South Dakota and has succeeded at increasing tourism to the state.